Hello and welcome to VVork. I'm Brian Watrous and this is part 30 in a 10-part video series all about learning how to automate using vRealize Orchestrator. This is our last video where we're going to talk about configurations, configuration elements, and configuration attributes, and we're going to do so in conjunction with talking about something called packages. But let's hop on in here. What you're looking at here is the interface that we see when we save a package in Orchestrator. When you create a package can contain a lot of different things. A package could contain workflows and or actions and or configuration attributes and other things like resources and other stuff we can talk about later. But what I want to show you is that when you create a package, and you finally say, okay, save the package so that we can create that single file. The interface that appears on the screen when you do that, first of all, asks you, where do you want to save this package file? Then it asks you, what do you want to call the package file? And it's got a bunch of other things going on the screen here, but what I want you to see are these two checkboxes down here in the lower right-hand corner. The first one is labeled export the values of the configuration settings, which we'll talk about in a moment. But let's talk about the other one. Export the value of the configuration secure string settings. That's a mouthful, but essentially what they're saying here is with this checkbox, if you check this checkbox, we will export into this package things like passwords that you've stored in the configuration repository, which you may or may not want. They're secure strings, so nobody's going to be able to actually see the values. Even if I give them the package with my passwords encrypted as secure strings, they'll be able to use the passwords, but they won't be able to see them. But even that, just the ability to use my passwords is quite likely something that I don't want the recipient of my package to be able to do. So in cases like that, I will uncheck the checkbox labeled export the values of the configuration secure string settings. Again, that's a mouthful. Take a deep breath before you say that. So if you don't want passwords or things like that that have been stored in secure strings to be exported, just uncheck that checkbox. But that's actually not the checkbox I came here to show you. The one I really want to show you is the one labeled export the values of the configuration settings. Because what that allows you to do is to say whether you want to export both the configuration attributes, name, and their values. Sometimes it's useful to export both, but there are some cases where it's really useful to be able to export the names of the configuration values, the names of the configuration attributes, but not their values. For instance, imagine, if you will, imagine I'm no longer a VMware instructor. Instead, I'm an independent consultant that's going around to different customers and automating their IT operations using Orchestrator to do that. Now, one thing that I might do as a consultant is to develop a whole bunch of really cool, really awesome workflows for one customer that I want to be able to reuse over in another customer's environment. Now, obviously, if I'm going to configure information about customer A into the configuration repository, including things like passwords, then when I package up the work that I did for customer A, I'm going to definitely want to make certain that I don't export the secure strings. But additionally, if I uncheck export the values of the configuration settings, I will therefore know that in the package that I create, none of customer A's values, none of the site-specific or customer-specific information from customer A, none of that will be in the package. And therefore, when I, the consultant, go to customer B to reuse these workflows in customer B's environments, all I have to do is to import the package. And since the package contains the configuration attribute names, but not their values, I'm protected from any accidental leakage of information from customer A. And all I have to do at customer B when I import that package is to make certain I set the values of those configuration attributes in a way that's appropriate for customer B. So that's a really slick trick that you can use whether you're a consultant or there are other times you may want to do that. For instance, in all the previous videos, we've been talking about a scenario where we're moving a workflow from the production environment, test dev environment to the production environment. Actually, we weren't doing that. We were still having the workflow on the same Orchestrator server potentially, and just pointing it at different servers. But if we were truly taking the workflows that we're developing, packaging them up in our test dev environment, and then moving them into the production environment, using this trick is really handy in that case too. But configurations and this packaging trick are not the only things in Orchestrator that are useful. In fact, in the next couple of videos, what we're going to be talking about is another mechanism that's similar to configurations. It's not quite exactly the same thing, but it's another mechanism called resources. So I will see you in the next video when we're going to talk about resource elements.